to 24 months to time.
Well, interestingly, my next question was going to be, if that weren't the case, because you made a point about increasing use of bots and automation, that is a point of no return in a way. Once you start replacing jobs, no matter how complex, with an automated system, it'd be very difficult to persuade the CFO and the CEO to actually bring back an individual with a salary and complexity and all that kind of stuff. So once a company decides to go down that route, automated roles, how do you think the industry would develop? Do you think it would improve productivity? Do you think it would actually compound the issues around having individuals in charge of those strategies that you've in place? It might be sector specific, I'm sure, but is that something you have all thought about in your teams or in your strategies?
I think if an organisation isn't thinking about automation and cleaning up their data, they're not going to survive. So there's just the level of inefficiency that you're carrying by not having the right data, making the right decisions, and having really manual processes is just not sufficient. So there's that element that you can say, I'm not going to do any automation, but you're just not going to be there in the long run. The flip side of that is, where does this automation come from? Where does the design come from? Where does the technology come from? The theory is that by doing that, the people that you employ are adding value to your organization rather than just shifting bits of paper or bits of data around. And as a result, you're creating a more skilled workforce. That's why data literacy is so key, because you want to know not just how do you clean your data, but also how do you make the decisions that you're making. And I think that those are the opportunities. It's a much more interesting, it's a more engaging job. And there is more and more and more work to do to deliver that.
Interesting. You're nodding your head.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously, we want to streamline, we want to be efficient, we want to clean up those manual tasks that don't add value, which sort of removes the layer, I suppose, of more manual task and lower skilled work. But somebody's got to write the code that does that. And, we're here in the capacity of technology leaders and technology sort of hirers and people worried about those resources. So for sure, we're going to need those anyway. I think the interesting thing is the technology workforce of the future will not just sit in the tech team. And what we're seeing, and I'm certainly seeing as we try to automate, streamline, introduce operational efficiency, is that, we're sort of starting to go, well, finance and operations are going, well, we need some data scientists, or we need some this and that. And, those roles will actually start to appear all over different parts of the organisation. I suppose the org structure of the future is an interesting one to think about, because, will the tech team be a tech team, or actually does technology take over the whole organisation and yes. You end up, let's hope so. But I think it's, you must be thinking about it, as you say, you have to be looking for opportunities to automate, but I think probably not in our careers will the automation automate itself. I think, we're all sort of in the world where you still need people to analyse those business processes, define, design, build, test, deploy, support, run, maintain those systems that do that. And that's the sort of industry that we're all concerned about.
So actually, when we think about workforce, the future discussions, we really ought to be thinking also about the structure of the company, the blueprints by which things are run and how that transforms with new talent. That's a really interesting point, Katie. Connor, I'm going to come to you next. Coming back then to some of the needs that we discussed early on in the conversation, the remote hybrid working, how does that trend with what we discussed around talent trends converge, if they do so at all, do you think?
Wow, where do I start with this one? I think the tech companies can really help us on this topic from my perspective. If hybrid's here to stay, and I genuinely believe it is, then how do we help organisations across all the different activities that we do to allow the remote hybrid model actually be more immersive, and whether that is the metaverse or the technologies that come into the forefront. But I think we've got to keep pushing the boundaries to allow organisations to have that flexibility. Our workforce love hybrid working. They equally love coming to the office and engaging with people. So I think that we just got to try and get the technologies to come in a bit more into the real world and engage with us and to experience life today, so they can help us. And I certainly don't think I'm doing enough at the moment to bring those organisations in to actually look at the environment and to see how we can make it better.
So reconfigure the office space, basically.